if I can have your attention, please. I am going to call this meeting to order. Today is December 13th, 2024. It is Friday. Triskaidekaphobians. That's the fear of the number 13. And Friday the 13th only matters if you are a Knights Templar in France and it's 1307 and King Philip is arresting you for heresy. So, yeah, right. So I've called. So I've called the meeting to order. I've already lost control, but if you can please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we have all members of the governing board here today, so we definitely have a quorum. I'm going to read the meeting procedures announcement. The governing board conducts all of its meetings in compliance with Arizona open meeting laws per ARS Title 33-1804 and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will also be followed in board meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, entitled Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules 2 and 3. All questions and comments are to be directed to the Governing Board President. All comments are entertained at the discretion of the Governing Board President. Speakers shall state their name and member number and speak in a courteous manner. The Governing Board President may limit commentary time and the number of commentators or speakers on any issue. The Governing Board President also may redirect commentary at individual agenda items to the General Guest Comments agenda line item, except when the board has discussed the agenda item and a formal vote is to be taken. All fire and room safety precautions and regulations are strictly obeyed at all meetings per the guidance of the Arizona Fire and Medical Authority. The governing board reserves the right to adjourn any meeting if the safety of the board, meeting attendees, or others is deemed at risk or if there is too much disruption to continue. After one verbal warning by the president, the board also reserves the right to ask any meeting attendees to leave any meeting should their behavior be deemed dangerous or unacceptable. Disciplinary action may follow. Okay, with that, we'll move to the approval of the minutes from our November 8th, 2024 meeting. Are there any corrections, additions, changes to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, they will be accepted as written. Moving to our new business, agenda item 3.01, proposed new policy L14 entitled Recording of Meetings of the Governing Board and Standing Committees. And I hear myself. Somebody mute, and as long as we have the interruption, please silence your phones if you haven't already. Okay, with that, I will turn it over to Director Christine Novello.
Thank you, President Leary. At I believe it was our summertime training session, we talked about the recording of our meetings and specifically about how to handle any need to edit those meetings. Unfortunately, for those who are not here, we were discussing there are times when either by accident or sometimes by intention, there may be some language or gestures or signage used that may be deemed inappropriate, and it leaves our staff in the situation of having to decide what to do, whether to allow that something that is objectionable to be posted online and so forth. So we decided at that time that we would pursue a policy related to the recording of our meetings and also about editing. So the proposed policy statement, this is a new policy L14, sets forth really just a basic policy, not a how this will be done, but what we believe is important to do. So pursuant to that, even though we currently and today the staff is using YouTube as the platform, this policy doesn't mention the specifics of what the technology tool of choice would be. We leave that decision in the hands, or this policy would propose, we would leave that in the hands of the general manager and the staff. So this is really just all about codifying what's currently happening in a way. Section 2 is that all the open meetings that are currently broadcasted are also recorded so that offline review can occur. So that's basically I'll just give a quick, I'm not going to read it, but quick overview of what we're looking at for those of you who are not able to follow along at home. So Section 2 just talks about the fact that the meetings are recorded, that they're made available for online internet review as soon as possible, and that if there is a delay in the availability, that the staff who records this for us will notify the membership that there's been a delay. And it does give a specific time elapse. In my observation and experience, the staff is really quick to note that there's been some kind of a delay. But this just Section 2 sets that forward and gives a 24-hour clock to say if there is some kind of a delay, let everybody know 24 hours, no less, not later than 24 hours following the meeting. Section 3 pertains to the real nuts and bolts and the view of what we discussed as a board. What do we do when we feel that there's a need to edit a meeting? So 3.1 says that either the governing board or if it's a committee meeting, the chairperson could recommend this, or a staff person could recommend or observe that there's been something that occurred that would might be considered objectionable, slanderous, could violate some kind of a law or statute. So we can recommend that. And again, staff or the chairperson or the governing board could recommend that by that section. It says that the governing board shall approve any recommendation to censor or edit that meeting. This assures that the staff is not sort of, solely acting and responsible for making those very difficult decisions, that we will step in and approve a recommendation before any editing would occur. And in the event that there is any editing that is made, that it is explained in that recording, either visual or audio. So for those of you who, like me, are old enough to remember broadcast television and the bleep, if something occurred in a live recording, and that may still occur in some cases, or maybe there's a blurring on screen, however the team would choose to do it, that there's an on-screen or audio indicator that there's been an edit. And therefore, we're not just summarily removing the section, but we're explaining that there's been an edit. That way, anyone watching this is clear that the recording has been edited. And before the edited recording is posted for everyone to see, that this will be reviewed by the meeting chairperson, whomever that is, and if different, the governing board president or that president's designee. What this does is ensure that someone who attended the meeting and chaired that meeting reviews the content that's been edited to ensure that it really does still reflect the nature of the meeting and that nothing that is important has been edited out. So that was the intention of 3.4. Section 4 sets forth a retention policy that, again, this is happening in our observation, but this just sets forth and makes a policy that the general manager will determine how to retain these recordings, both the edited and the unedited. But anything that has been, we want to ensure we're retaining the unedited recordings. And again, just to assure everybody, this is what's happening now. This policy, I believe anyway, this is what's happening now. So this is not doing anything new or correcting a problem. This just makes sure that as we go forward, we're doing this. The unedited recordings will be retained by the staff for at least 3 calendar years following the date of the meeting. The duration was selected by me. I can't say that it came from anywhere other than a judgment call, so just FYI. And that's it. That's the quick overview, and President Leary, I'm more than willing to take questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Director Novello from the board? Yes, Director Hurley.
Director Novello, what guidelines or guardrails are in here to keep from some future board considering alternative views as offensive?
You're right. There isn't anything in here that sets that forward. Do you think that that's important?
I do.
Okay. So do we have, is there some specific, is there a statute or something that you've seen that we could cite, or should we could go back and research it if you don't? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, I'd just like to be more specific about what exactly would be editable comments or material.
I understand that. I don't have any specific suggestions, but I can take this back and research that and come back with another recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
If everybody agrees, I'm happy to do that.
Any other questions? Director Rhodes?
No, this kind of reminds me of Senator Jesse Helms from North Carolina that said that he didn't know how to describe what pornography was, but he'd know it when he saw it. You know, and I don't mean to be flip about that, but I think that's what we're dealing with. I'm not sure how to describe it.
It's a tough one, Dick, in my view as well, that we're trying to skirt the line between, we don't want to censor anyone's views. I believe that may be what Director Hurley was.
And I agree.
And we need
I agree
to come up with some kind of guideline.
Point, but I also agree with the conundrum that we're in. I would say, good luck.
Well, thank you. I'm not an expert in broadcasting and so forth, but I'll go and do a little research and come back at our next workshop, and we'll decide from there whether this is something that we can do yet, or if there's anything. I did not see anything at that time, but I'm happy to research it.
Okay. Director Horvath.
Yeah, well, I agree that we should probably put some guardrails there also, but once you get into trying to do something like that, you know, it is a never-ending battle, so to speak, and so I agree. Good luck. So
I appreciate your good wishes.
That's right.
Let's see what we can come up with, and again, if it's, I'm happy to come back with other questions as well. I'm happy to come back with what I've found in further research at our January workshop.
Any other questions, comments? Director Graham.
Thank you, President Leary. My only question would be, would it be appropriate in this policy to have the statement that the video recordings are not the official history of the meeting, only the approved minutes? Is that necessary, do you think?
That's a good question. I think that's probably worth incorporating.
If I'm
Good.
Director Grum, some kind of a disclaimer or upfront, and do you have any thoughts on behind what you'd like to see? If not, I can find a way to edit it in.
Well, I mean, what I was getting at is the fact that it seems as if these recordings possibly could be retained in perpetuity, and in some cases, you see where it says recordings, both audio and video, should be destroyed by the association after the official written minutes are approved.
Director Horvath.
thank you, President.
I don't agree.
How long do the videos stay on YouTube? Is that forever and ever? So maybe
I believe they remain until they're deleted.
I think so too. So maybe one thing we could could do is.
And
get
again,
'em-
this is not, we don't know what the tool will be going forward.
Right.
Sorry.
So maybe one thing we could do is, with technology, maybe get them off YouTube and something that's totally controlled by, by Sun City West, the general manager, and the governing board.
Yeah, this, thank you. If I may respond, this is really setting forth what we do with recordings, right? So it's not so much saying, it's saying that anything that's an open meeting is recorded as it currently is and held. And it also is saying when there is an edit, the unedited, untouched recording has to be retained for some period of time. I felt while drafting this, it was important to retain that so we could go back to that if challenged for, censorship allegations, or if there was a legal matter that arose later that required us to restore that, that edited section, that's all. And again, it just, how it will be done would be left in the hands of the folks in technology, but that was the intention.
Okay, Mr. General Manager?
Yeah, so, thank you, President Larry. So just, first of all, to follow up on Director Grom, I would agree in the sense that we do need to be very, very careful. You think prior to COVID, not everybody did videos and all that, and this is not, the recordings are not the official record. You're absolutely right, number one. Number two, as far as the videos themselves, yes, we do want to get them off of YouTube because we don't control YouTube. And we've already had some discussions, and we're working towards, within board docs, to be able to have those videos contained within board docs. So that's something we're working towards in the future as well. But we do want to definitely get them off YouTube because we can't control that platform.
This might be a legal question for your attorney. There might be a legal precedence for this. How long you should keep the minutes, not the minutes, but the recordings.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any other questions or comments? So I've heard retention policy, sunset policy, a little more definition around what is to be edited.
Right, defining the censorship,
Okay.
putting some guardrails, I believe.
Yeah, is there anything that I missed? Yes, Director Hurley.
I have another thing. Once it gets posted to YouTube, is it editable by us? Do you have to take it down and repost another one? Yes? You have to take it down and repost another one. You can't edit what's on YouTube.
And remember, for all of us, that YouTube is what we're using today, but thank you.
Hello? Yeah, so when we live stream, it automatically posts to YouTube after it processes. To edit it, we would have to take it down and repost it, and it would be reposted with a different date. I will say, though, state law does say that if the board chooses to record meetings, it does become an official minute. May not be the official record or the official voting record, but it is a legally retainable record at that point.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then Director Novella will bring that back to our meeting in, our workshop in January then. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 3.02, BNF Investments Group. Working group progress. Again, Director Novella.
Thank you, President Leary. Just to, I mentioned this, we kicked off the Budget and Finance Investments Policy Working Group, and that kickoff meeting occurred yesterday, as you can see on board docs. Great progress being made, and both myself and Cliff are serving as advisors. Mickey and Rick are doing a great job of modeling and so forth, and again, are just doing the work that that we believe is necessary in budget and finance to ensure that the current investment policies 12 and 4, or the items that cover investments in our reserve fund 12 and 4, are still serving in the best interests of our association. So that working group continues. The next meetings are also mentioned on board docs. While they're if anyone would like to come and watch the team work in spreadsheets and so forth, they are posted and are open. So it could be a little dry, but January 7th and January 14th are the next 2 meetings that we've scheduled immediately following the holiday. So we're pretty much on track in terms of we expect to be able to come, the working group expects to, at this point, to be able to come to our February workshop with some preliminary findings for the board's feedback. Not the final decisions, but certainly just some initial findings so you can give some feedback to the process. That's where we are.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Director Novello from the board? Questions from the audience? I forgot to ask for questions on the first one. Any questions on that topic? Okay, then I will move forward to 3.03 agenda item, the Chartered Clubs Committee RR&P Revisional Working Group progress. Director Chatton.
Thank you, President Leary. If anybody's ever looked at the RR&Ps, they know this is quite the project. They just go on and on and on, and if anybody can really memorize even a portion of them, they're doing really well. But anyway, Nick Turner and Vicki Earler have been heading up our working group and have told me that they're making very good progress. They've been through the entire document at this point, and they have discussed and proposed some revisions. And they are currently reviewing comments emailed to them from the Chartered Club presidents, and they may be proposing additional revisions based on club president input. They will have their draft ready for presentation to the Chartered Clubs Committee and the public at our January 7th meeting of the Chartered Club Committee. I think this process isn't going to be over 30 days after January 7th. I think there's going to be a lot of input from the board and the public when it goes out there. It makes Nick smile just thinking about it. but anyway, they have really done an incredible job. I don't know how many times they've met, but it's very often, and it's a long document, and they have their revisions in there. So we look forward to seeing what they've done on January 7th, and we'll be looking for input from the public, from the board, from anybody who wishes to add some input to that document.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Director Chatton from the board? Any from the audience? Okay, then with that, we'll move to agenda item 3.04, the golf RR&Ps. I think, policies, revisions, working group progress. Director Graham?
Thank you, President Leary. At the November meeting, the Golf Committee formed a working group. Subsequent to that meeting, Golf Operations has assembled several years' worth of golf group data usage, which we now have available to us. We've had a bit of difficulty in scheduling our first meeting as one of our members has been on travel quite a bit, so we are still looking to have a meeting here after Christmas and well before the January Golf Committee meeting where we hope to have a final report, but we're only looking at one policy, which is the golf groups. And what has happened is over the years, the actual implementation of the golf groups has changed, so we're looking to clarify that in the policy.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions for Director Graham from the board? Any questions from the audience? Okay, we're just moving through this. Okay, agenda item 3.05, facts and findings. New softball field scoreboard contract. Our CFO, Cliff Swan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, President Leary, and good morning, board. All right, so today we're presenting a facts and findings. We've got the president of the softball club here as well for any questions. But essentially what we're looking at doing is we have a softball scoreboard that exists, and we've got an opportunity to, well, first of all, this is up on our capital improvement budget for 25, 26 at approximately 50,000. It might be on the budget for a little higher than that, but we have an opportunity to get this scoreboard replaced and get it funded through a naming rights agreement by Liberty Buick. So it's Liberty Field. Liberty Buick currently has a naming rights agreement in place from 2003 on the clubhouse. There's a name on the clubhouse of the founder of Liberty Buick, and that currently exists. So basically what we're looking at doing here is extending the naming rights for another 25 years and also adding a advertisement at the bottom of the scoreboard. And in exchange for that, for 25 years, they will pay for the replacement of the scoreboard at approximately $50,000. Oh, thank you, Terry. So you can see on the top, the scoreboard that's being proposed, the concept. We had a few concepts, and we presented this a couple of times to various groups and kind of decided that this one was the best looking one. And then at the bottom on Exhibit B, you can see the current naming rights on the clubhouse itself. So the issue at hand really is that the general manager has the authority to enter into 3-year agreements when it comes to advertising. But for a 25-year agreement, we will need the approval from the governing board to move forward with that. So with that said, the general manager in operations is asking the governing board to approve us to enter into a 25-year naming rights agreement to have the scoreboard funded by Liberty Buick at approximately $50,000.
Okay, thank you, Cliff. Any questions or comments from the board? Director Rhodes.
I do. 25 years is a long time. What's the useful life of a scoreboard? I mean, what I envision is that in 8 years or a period of time, the scoreboard is going to be either in disrepair or we've hit so many home runs and destroyed it. And we have to buy a new one. If so, we end up in 8 years buying a new one. Do we have to put Liberty Buick up on that one?
No, the useful life on that is going to be set at 25 years. It'll be set. So we'll be able to maintain that scoreboard. The current scoreboard is about 23 years old. Yeah. So, and we're actually using the existing infrastructure that's there. We're just replacing the facing on that, the actual board part. And that it is protected by nets. So.
Director Chatton.
I thought in our previous discussions, we had said that, well, it was Liberty Field long before Liberty Buick was ever involved, and it was mainly for those who had served, and that's what it was named after. So to give them it doesn't quite sit with me for 25 years that they would have naming rights to the field for basically a couple grand a year. It seems like that's just, I'd be more comfortable with something that was a little shorter. I appreciate the fact that they're willing to do it, and we would save a considerable amount of money. It just doesn't sit right.
So good point. The field itself is named Liberty Field. It's not the field that's getting the naming rights. It's the naming for the advertisement for the scoreboard itself of being Liberty Buick, and then a continuation of the placard that's currently on the building, which they funded $50,000 for back in 2003 to have it built. So it's the name of the field is Liberty Field, and that is independent of this agreement or any agreement. Really.
My comment is simply that anybody who went to Liberty Field would automatically think that it was named after Liberty Buick. I would think that would be the perception. Could be wrong.
I'm Nick Misso. I'm president of the softball club. I did a lot of research going into this to see where the name Liberty actually came from. I was given 3 different stories of where it actually originated, and it is named for Liberty Buick. Because there was a story about it being named after veterans. There was a story about it named for something else, but it was actually named something else before Liberty Field. I don't exactly remember what it was. Dennis, you might? Okay, but in 2003, when Liberty helped pay for the clubhouse, that's when the name of the field was changed to Liberty Field. I would like to, on a side note, I'm having, through Cub sources, have banners made on the back, welcome, thanking veterans and things like that. But the name itself is from Liberty Buick.
Thanks for the update.
When you Google the field, it's called Liberty Field, if you Google it. And I promise you, Liberty does not own the rights to that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, Director Hurley?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One was Liberty Buick the only people that we went to seeking sponsorships?
Yes, they are, because basically they currently, I think the initial contract was 25 years, and I think we're at 23. And I have no my fear is if we go to somebody else and they want to change the name of the field, I don't want to change the name of the field.
Okay, my other questions are, what is Exhibit A and B? They weren't in the packet.
They're the first page. They're kind of out of order.
Oh. Okay, I thought there was some verbiage attached to that. All right, thank you.
Yeah, Director Horvath?
Thank you, President. Just for clarification, it totally includes installation, correct?
Yes, it's yes, all inclusive.
So there's zero cost to us at all?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And this is initiated by the softball club, not by the association.
Director Piaskowski?
Thank you. Tim asked about if we went out to see if anyone else wanted it. Is there a clause in the contract that they would have first rights of refusal? I mean, because I would think that if they've been there for 23 years, we're on the 23rd year, that before we go to anyone else, we'd have to give them that presentation, correct? And then see if they want it or not? I don't know.
All right, to be clear, the current naming rights agreement is to have the placard of Liberty Buick Clubhouse by Dana E. Moore on the clubhouse. It has nothing to do with the field name itself. So the existing placard, they're looking to extend that and also at the same time fund this scoreboard. And so, but there's no right of refusal in the current existing agreement that I saw when I read the agreement. No, because we would control it, so we wouldn't want to give them control.
Director Novello?
Thank you, President Leary. I thank you, by the way, for bringing this to our attention. Right? It's a very enticing offer. It's not the first time we've heard it. We've heard about it in the general manager operating updates as well. It just occurs to me, what happens, or is there any clause, what happens if Liberty Buick ceases to exist, right? Does the naming right just automatically terminate? I don't know how the contract's written. It's a long time, as directors before me have said.
Yeah, so I don't believe the contract is assignable.
Okay.
So, yeah, so the building itself, again, this is, they're going to fund
the
the scoreboard.
yeah.
And we have advertising on that field, all over the field.
Yep.
So they're just asking that if they can have their name at the bottom. They wanted it up at the top with a big Buick logo where
Right,
where
I
the
remember
Sun City
that. And
West
thank
logo
you,
is.
thank you for,
And we
this
were
is
like,
great.
no, we don't want that. So, yeah, we tried to do it as, without taking away whatever nostalgia is in place on the current name of the field, and provide what they were looking for at the same time, accomplish what needed to be accomplished.
Okay.
I think they're mainly interested in keeping that placard on the clubhouse building itself. It means a lot to them from their founder. But again, the name Liberty Field is not, they don't own the rights to that.
Right, it was just for my question was really
Yeah.
about the scoreboard. You know,
Yes.
if anything happened, obviously the advertisement would come off, so, thank you.
Mr. General Manager?
Yeah, actually, what I was gonna say, a lot of it just got clarified, but I just want to make it really clear. So to the point, the Sun City West logo in the center, that was going to be a Buick logo, which we changed. So that's keeping that. Again, Liberty Field is the field. We have no desire to change the name of the field regardless of anything. We want to keep it Liberty Field, even if they were to go away. So at the end of the day, what they're paying for is the Liberty Buick little banner at the bottom of the scoreboard and the ability to keep the clubhouse name on the back of the building. That's what they're paying for. They're not paying for the name of the rights for the field itself. They're paying for those two items. And we get a scoreboard that doesn't cost us anything.
Dr. Hurley?
Was there any discussion for a shorter time period?
No, not, I mean, I think the 25 was basically the same that they had before. And that's about the length of time that the scoreboard was operational. The existing scoreboard right now is, like I said, it's close to 23 years old. The technology that runs it is outdated. We have bulbs that are out on it that can't be replaced because it is 23 years old. This one's a little different. So hopefully it should last the same amount of year. It'll be protected the same way the current one's protected. So I don't see it being an issue of being replaced until hopefully, that 25 years. And that's how long we have it, I imagine, in depreciation.
Can I ask him another question? How much does one of the banners on the outfield wall cost?
That depends on the size of the banner.
Okay, standard size, one length.
Right now, I think they're about $1,000.
And how many years do they stay up there?
They have, well, it's a I believe it's 3-year contract for $1,000. And from that, if they pay $1,000, it stays up there for 3 years. But the club only gets $750 of that because the club pays to have the banner created. We're in the process of switching that over so that the club doesn't receive any of that money. All that money is going to the rec center, and then it'll be put into a fund that the soft club could have access to in times when they need money.
The reason I ask that question is to get some sort of comparison between what the standard pennants are versus what we're at. Liberty Buick is asking us to do for 25 years. Seems like they're getting a heck of a deal off of it.
Well, I would say we are too. We're getting a free scoreboard. So.
$2,000 a year compared to $1,000 for a banner.
Well, it's I guess instead of being 3 years, it's 2 years, right? So instead of being this is going to cost us probably close to that $60,000 through the purchase of the scoreboard and the installation. Over 25 years, it'll be slightly over $2,000 a year, which is a slight reduction from the $1,000 for 3 years, I would say. So I don't think it's that great of a bargain for them.
Okay, Director Rhodes.
Actually, the more I think about this, the more I'm really okay with it. But the issue that I'm concerned about is that of equity. We do have other facilities. I know pickleball has they've got a sands court, and then they've got another court over at Palm Ridge, so, yeah, well, one is Sands and the other one is Liberty. So what's the terms of that? Is it I'm just looking at a level of consistency.
Those are in 25 and 30-year naming rights agreements as well.
Director Horvath.
Just as a matter of clarification, I am a softball member, but besides that, this is a nice windfall for us because it returns 50 to 60,000 back to our budget that we don't have to expend. So we're not only getting a free scoreboard, we're also getting 50 to 60,000 back that we can apportion someplace else. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, so then with that, I want to take a consensus. Should we move this to our regular meeting? Director Horvath?
Yes.
Director Graham?
Yes.
Director Novello?
Yes.
Director Chatton?
Yes.
Director Piaskowski?
Yes.
Director Williams?
Absolutely, yes.
Director Rhodes?
Yes.
And Director Hurley?
Yes, being certain that this is a vote to move it to the meeting and not to approve it. Right. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to agenda item 3.06. It's an update about the sports pavilion and bowling policy reviews. Director Rhodes?
Thank you. The bowling and the sports pavilion and bowling committee met on Wednesday, and we reviewed our final 3 policy directives. The directives were BO3, non-resident bowling, BO4, bowling tournaments and special events, and BO5 is bowling league. And all 3 of the policies were examined by individuals on the committee, and then the committee discussed it, and all 3 have been, that there be recommended that there be no changes to any of the 3 policies. Therefore, Mr. President, we submit policies 3, 4, and 5 to be certified as accurate for this year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Director Rhodes from the board, from the audience? Okay, thank you. We will accept your updates then. Agenda item numbers 7 and 8 are almost identical. I will discuss these. I am proposing for your consideration that we have 2 new standing rules. And these are not policies, but these are rules because they affect the operation of a board meeting. Ever since last year, before I became president, we had a statement written that was read before the meeting. And I read it today, and the committees read it at their meeting. The standing rules 5 and 6, as I've called them, are simply to codify a current process that we are following. So I will open to questions or discussion on this topic from the board. Yes, Director Chatton.
Maybe as the newbie, I should sit and listen a little bit, but hard for me to do. I just don't think we need to read those comments before a meeting. I think it intimidates the audience to, maybe you shouldn't come up because I might cut you off or I might do something. And I understand that there was an event that happened last year that kind of precipitated this statement being made. But I hate it when one thing ruins it for everybody else. So I guess I can't say that I'm in favor of making these a standard rule.
What this statement does is it codifies existing procedures that are allowed under Arizona statutes and under Robert's Rules of Order. So it's there so that everybody knows that there is the right of the chairperson or the president to manage the meeting. It's not to cut people off, but it's to manage the meeting, make sure we have a productive meeting.
I think the president of the board has that authority without any statement. Just my thoughts.
And that is correct, but the audience members may not understand that. Director Horvath.
I have to agree with Director Chapman, and also I looked, because I researched this, and I looked through Robert's Rules of Order, and I don't see where in a regular standard meeting that this warning, so to speak, or that the rules are mandated. I guess it can be done, but like, I agree with him. It's kind of like threatening to the people that are, and our owner members that are out there watching the meeting. And then this will make 6 standing rules and 9+ pages of rules for just the meeting. And, you know, I think that if this is a good idea, one thing I might suggest is that we, for example, put the rules into a PowerPoint, and where nothing else is up there, then that PowerPoint sits there. And instead of reading it, that it's there for all of the attendees to read at their will. And it's easily enforced that way too. If somebody does go over the line, then, you know, we can point that out. Thank you.
This becomes a record of the meeting. So it's an active update to the meeting and just having it there to read. We don't always have a display for people to read. So one could look at this and say it's intimidating. I look at it as it's informative, that it's informing the audience and everybody in the room as to what the rules are for a meeting, so that there's no surprises when things happen, when if somebody gets out of control. Our attorney has reviewed these, so he has approved them. So I think it's worthwhile to codify this and to make sure it's part of a process going forward. That's why I've presented it. Director Nobello?
I'm in agreement with some of the comments that have been made before. I understand the intention, and I support the intention to inform our participants and our fellow owner members of how the meetings are run. And I, though, disagree with the notion of 2 additional standing rules to address this and to codify, if you will, the text that we read. In particular, I think that's where I struggle a bit. It's the nature of the text. I know, President Leary, that this has been reviewed by lawyers, and I understand it. I also support the intention, which is to, again, inform. But like others have said, I believe that the way that this is currently done has the unintended outcome of appearing intimidated. So I propose for us to consider, we can, if we wish to go forward, we could include what's currently the purpose or pieces of the purpose into the existing standing rule. I believe it's 3, it could be 4, that says this is how at the beginning of every meeting, a statement will be read to inform everybody. But the text of what is read is not included in our standing rule. I just think it creates a lot of, not only it may create some unintended intimidation, but it also creates more overhead. We have to continue to update the standing rule if we want to modify the text. My view.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Director Rhodes.
To me, this is the blinding flash of the obvious. I think that we have not had isolated issues. We have had multiple issues in this room and in the committees where we've had to draw the line and do things that you would have thought were more draconian than they should have been. I don't see this, although I do see snippets of how it could be considered to be onerous, but on the same token, I think this is something that's necessary. We could probably tone it down a little, but I think this is critical. I think it's important. And I agree with you, Mr. President. I think it's an informative issue. We've had a lot of dissension. There's been a lot of ill will. There's been people that have come here with singular agendas and nothing else makes any difference. And so I think that it's important that we read and everyone understands this is how we're going to do business. So as much as I don't like the idea of reading this, I've read it multiple times, I think it's necessary.
Thank you. Director Williams?
I'm the historian that's been around this place a long time, and I've sat through a lot of meetings. And the world has changed in the 20 years that I've lived here. Behavior has been changed. And I really support this as being important and necessary. I think it serves its purpose, and I would support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Williams. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Yes. Yes, Director Novello, while he's walking up.
Thank you, President Leary. Another blinding flash of the obvious, perhaps, but there have been some times that folks have said, gee, you know, the governing board just sort of nods our head and agrees with each other. I'm listening to some of the comments that are going back and forth, and I appreciate them because, as a few of you have pointed out, the world has changed. And we're seeing some really unfortunate events happen outside of our beautiful little community. And the way that things are changing, I think there is a need to read a statement of some sort. I don't want anyone to think otherwise. I think perhaps including the existing statement in our in these standing rules may be a bit of a step too far, but that's, again, just wanted to thank my colleagues for speaking up because I'm listening to what you're saying and it makes some sense. Thanks.
Thank you. Your name and record number, please.
Nick Turner, is this on? Yeah, okay. Yeah, Nick Turner, 131829. As a member of the Chartered Clubs Committee who has to sit on this podium once a month or so, I've been in meetings where there's been a large group which has been unruly on at least 2 occasions. And so I think there is a need for some clarity as to what the powers of the chair of the meeting are when it comes to controlling that behavior. But I also agree as well that reading through that statement at the beginning of every meeting is tedious. My recommendation would be to make the standing rule optional, that the chair of the meeting may choose to read the statement during the call to order, and it's replaced by a statement in the call to order that the meeting will be conducted under those rules, and perhaps have a few paper copies of those rules around if members of the audience want to read them. But, you know, from my experience of meetings here, at the beginning of this meeting, looking at the audience, I think there's a very, very high chance that it's going to be well conducted, polite, no interruptions. If this room is full of people, you know you could perhaps expect disruption because a group of people have been encouraged to come to the meeting to make a point of some sort. And that group might be angry, rightfully or wrongfully, but I think you allow a little bit of discretion for the chair of the meeting. That's it.
Thank you. That's a good suggestion. Director Piaskowski.
Okay, would it be possible that we would make this a policy under membership so they would know, and it would not be as wordy as we have it, but members then would know what we are expecting of them when they attend meetings and committee meetings, and vice versa, what the board will do for them. This way, it's not a standing rule, it's a policy, so if someone is unruly, you could say, I'm sorry, according to policy under membership, we have to close the meeting. And it's a policy, right? And it's more important. It's telling them what we are expecting of them when they come to a meeting, what the board is expected to act like to them, and there's no discussion. It's a line in the sand. If you are not nice, we're going to ask you to leave. But that's just a thought process.
Thank you. It's another alternative. Director Chatton.
My follow-up. I don't think any of that statement changes any of the rules or the powers of the board or the chairman. And I think I think a statement that is much shorter, much kinder, and states what in short, what the power of the chair is, and that certain things won't be tolerated would be fine. I just think what we currently read, and I have to read as chair of the Chartered Clubs Committee, is just too long and too onerous. So I will surrender to the fact that maybe we should have something, but not what we have.
Okay, I'm amenable to that. Director Hurley.
I think we're getting onto a pretty slippery slope here. The Arizona legislature, on their statutes for condominiums and planned communities, goes out of their way to protect the rights of members. Okay, so saying that you're going to limit members is very delicate area to get into. Surprise just had a situation at their meeting where a lady who got up and was criticizing one of the councilmen was escorted out by the police and arrested, and she's now suing the city. So just need to be careful. The situation last year was with the softball club, where there was a lot of back and forth, and the decision was made to have 3 people on each side give their presentation for 3 minutes each. No other comment from the audience was made. And that was fine, but that was made a condition of coming to the meeting. Reading the line, committee chairman may limit commentary time and number of commentators on any issue, sounds to me like you could do that at a meeting and just say, I'm limiting conversation. According to the statute, you can't do that. People have to be able to speak before an action is taken. So I just think we need to look at this again and be a little bit more careful on how we word it.
Okay, and I'm amenable to that. That's the proposal, so I appreciate the feedback on that. So yes, Director Graham.
The more I hear the comments of others, are we actually looking to define procedures, or are we really looking to say what is unacceptable conduct by meeting attendees? Are we looking really to define that and say that's where the power then goes to the leader of the meeting? Or in this sense, we're saying the procedures for the meeting, and there's a lot of procedures, and it has nothing to do with the conduct of the attendees or the conduct of the board members.
Well, this is a meeting procedure, so we're not trying to prescribe overall behavior, but it's just the way that the meetings are conducted. It comes down to that there have been several meetings where the crowd, the audience has gotten quite verbal, and we've had instances where we've almost had to clear the room because of that. So it's unfortunate that behavior of our society today has crept into our community, and that's and it wasn't just one instance; it's several instances that has prompted this. But everything what you've said, what I will do now is take this feedback, and I will take that as we need to revisit this, need to rewrite this, and come up with a different approach. So I thank you for that. Yes, Director Horvath.
Thank you, President. Yeah, and maybe could we take a look at combining some of this, the standing rules, like Director Novella said, that some of this could go into Standing Rule 3, or maybe downsizing all the standing rules, or
You know,
is that possible?
It's possible. I'm less concerned about
Gotcha.
the number
Okay.
of rules, but I think the way that however we do it, making it effective is the more pressing issue. But yes,
Okay.
we can do that.
And I definitely appreciated Director Hurley's input.
All good. Okay, thank you for that. Agenda item 3.09 is I am proposing a change to guest policy M03. I've redlined this. This is my thought here, and this is, for your consideration. My thought here is that when the RR&Ps were revised a year ago, that there was language included in there that said that goes back to a board meeting, board resolution, or whatever you want to call it, from June 2011, that said that the recreation center facilities have been paid for by the members, and the use of these facilities is limited to dues-paying members and their occasionally invited guests. Now, that was put into the RR&Ps for the clubs, and it was approved by the board. And what I'm suggesting here is there should be, it shouldn't apply just to clubs. It should apply to everybody who uses our facilities. So this is for your consideration. And I appreciate your feedback. Director Novello.
I think this is a great idea to incorporate what has been discussed in clubs into, this verbiage has been important. As I recall, President Leary, we've had a number of discussions, and we do go back to a meeting that occurred quite some time ago. So actually putting it in the policy, I think, is a good intention. My question for you is on 4.2. I confess, I could have asked you this yesterday, I guess, but reading it immediately upon my return from vacation, I'm confounded by the wording here. What are we trying to convey? It reads, we're defining occasionally invited guests, the persons who have been asked by a member to attend an event or on an occurring encountered time to time, irregular. Could you just let me know what the intention is there?
Sure. The definition here, so occasionally invited guest, the statement is, the first part is who have been asked by a member, so it's a invitation. Then it's the occurring, so as it occurs, as it's encountered, so as, hey, come on, we got this thing, come on, let's go. Come with me. Time to time, so if it's a regularly scheduled event and you come periodically, in a regular or infrequent basis. But the point is, they're not a regular participant is the idea of that. Does that help?
It does help. I think we can clarify that a little bit, but it does help, and I understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Director Horvath.
Thank you, President. How does this apply to family members? I mean, like, for example, real time, I've got a couple of grandsons visiting over Christmas that are very excited to hit the golf course and hit the pickleball. They're going to be here, the one for a little over a week and the other for close to 2. It's every day. Is that going to be?
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to put a little clarification with that. Okay, thank you.
Director Chapman.
I would just have a question. This would probably go to Nick. I don't know how this conflicts with the current RR&Ps as it would affect league play or tournaments or any of those things, where this seems to, some of it says the same thing as what is currently in our RR&Ps, so that would be my question.
Nick, do you want to answer that? Since you were the RR&P guru?
There are special definitions in the RR&Ps about tournaments, leagues, whether they're held within a club just amongst the club members or whether they involve people who are non-residents. And there are special, rules and permissions required depending upon what the tournaments and leagues are. So essentially you place a request and that request goes to the recreation manager who approves or denies according to your compliance with the rules. This policy is more not necessarily about people coming to play a tournament. This is your friend is here for the weekend and you're going to pair up for the bridge game. Or, we're going to have a game of pickleball, because the friends are here for the weekend. Or as Governor Horvath said, the grandsons are here and they want to play softball and so on. And the amount and frequency that those guests can play as part of the chartered club are covered in the chartered club bylaws. The overall statement about occasionally invited guests really is to set some proportion on that, in that your friend from Surprise can't come and play bridge with you every week, for a whole year. It's an occasionally invited guest. Your friend from Surprise can come every now and again, as long as they, are not essentially living for free or living for $6 on an occasion.
Thank you, Nick. And also, there is a 4.4 of the proposed policy references that chartered club usage will be guided by the RR&Ps. So that would cover the tournaments, leagues, and those types of events. The answer is no. Okay. Director Grom.
President Leary, thank you. Since this addresses the chartered club guest usage, do we need to have a statement in here that this is not applicable to both the golf courses and the bowling alleys? Since
it does,
okay,
at the very bottom.
Okay, my mistake then. Thank you.
Director Horvath.
Yes, I don't even know whether I should bring this up or not, but because it's been kicked around before, and that's the guest pass are only good for one single day and have to be renewed every day. And I don't think I was part of the governing board at the time during the discussions, but it does become sometimes arduous, like if you have a young man wants to go swimming at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm not up. So
it's good you brought that up. That also impacts this policy, but it's being undertaken separately by the operations folks who are looking at a way to propose to address that.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yes, Director Hurley.
Yes, thank you, President Leary. I think part of this that annoys me is the same as the last topic that we had. It seems like you're trying to polish every dot on the I and highlight every cross on the T. Sounds like we're trying to get way too specific here. And 4.2, even though you just read it and explained it, I still don't know what that means.
And I've made a note, it needs to be clarified.
I just don't know whether we need to get down to this level of detail in policies. I mean, you can't write a policy that covers every possible example that's going to come up. Policies have to be at least broad enough to allow some criteria so that people can make judgments by.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, the feedback I've taken is that 4.2 needs to be rewritten. I will also look at other ways to broaden it per Director Hurley's suggestion. And I will bring that forth at a separate workshop, at a future workshop. Thank you very much. Okay, there have been no questions online this whole time. Thank you, Director Chatton. That's why I have these people around me. Okay, last agenda item 310 is we have a request from the Property Owners and Residents Association, also known as PORA. Ralph Johnson, the president of PORA, will be making this request of us.
Good morning, audience. Thank you, President Leary and board, for allowing our organization to be here to make our presentation this morning. On behalf of the PORA Board of Directors, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to present the PORA financial condition. Revenue has been declining in all departments for a decade. I will provide an overview of key financial categories. Membership is voluntary in PORA. The largest number of members is 17,000. There are currently 4,000 members. The highest dues revenue was $154,000. The current year revenue, $76,000, for a reduction in $56,000. Vendor services, highest revenue, $152,000. Current year, $98,000, for a $54,000 decline. Education services, highest revenue, $43,000. There's been a decline of $43,000 as we no longer had the support of the program to continue. Contributions, the highest year, $77,000. Current year, $13,000, reduction of $64,000. An old one from the past, remember telephone directory. Telephone directory commission today was $63,000. The program discontinued as obsolete. Operating expenses have remained the same over the decade, despite the reduction of 2 members of the staff 3 years ago, amounting to $70,000 per year savings. Expenses have increased while revenue decreased. An example of one category over the decade, we all understand insurance, sort of. It's increased from $8,000 to $25,000. I want to provide a partial sample of what PORA has done for the community over the decades. We have 4 committees: government relations, transit, water, traffic, and safety. The formation in 1979 of PORA was a result of a Dysart School referendum to increase taxes with a $27.75 million bond issue. Residents realized that an organization was needed to address these issues. PORA was successful in getting an agreement to secede from the school district. 80% of the citizens of Sun City West benefit and will do so in perpetuity. If not PORA, who speaks for Sun City West? The residents of SCW, as an unincorporated community, are entitled to have representation before any government agency, local through federal. The most immediate, impactful agency has proved to be the Arizona Corporation Commission better known as ACC. If it weren't for PORA, the residents of SCW would not have any representation at any level of government, and most impactfully, the ACC related to utility rate cases. The Government Relations Committee members hold the official title of intervener and are registered with the ACC to provide information, rebuttal, and information during the long process of a hearing of rate cases. These interactions are very long in duration, 15 months in the recent EPCOR case, tedious, labor-intensive, personally costly in terms of time, commitment, and financial outlay, and as a rule, go entirely unnoticed by residents of our community. The Government Relations Chair is a voluntary position. EPCOR has approximately a dozen separate water and wastewater districts in Arizona. It is in the best interest of EPCOR to consolidate the districts to facilitate the ease and management and administration of their organization. There are approximately 90% of the districts who have substantially higher utility rates than SCW. An example is Anthem, that has rates double SCW. PORA has collaborated with other like-minded communities in defeating consolidation for more than a decade. The issue, consolidation, is one of continual, I repeat, continual occurrence. Once defeated, it merely withdraws only to be resurrected and recontested at a later date. PORA's Government Relations Committee does that. The activities at the AC are not the only functions of the Government Relations Committee. There is continual involvement and communication with federal, state, and county elected representatives. Forums are held to host the representatives for the benefit of the community at our conference center. Congressman Lesko requested a Zoom meeting last spring with our board of directors, and we facilitated that conference via Zoom. The working relationship with County Supervisor Hickman has been invaluable over the years, and the Government Relations Chair will make a priority effort to establish a highly functional relationship with Debbie Lesko as she assumes her office and role as a county supervisor. And as a footnote, we do have a fairly major item to present to her for her consideration. In consultation with past Chair Bob Miller and current Chair Bud Metter, we estimate the residents have saved approximately $25 per month from the various utilities during the 45-year of existence. Yes, the utilities have gone up, but without our intervention there, they would be higher, would have been higher. The Government Relations brochure identifies, I'm here and some on the back of the room for you, identifies and highlights the major accomplishments of our predecessors during the entire existence of SCW. I thank those who have departed and those that are still in the community for their valuable contributions. A task force was formed in July 2023 by Maricopa County, entitled Maricopa County Planning Action Committee, MCPAC, McPAC. The PORA Government Chair, Bud Metter, was invited to be a member of the group, and indeed, PORA hosted a community-wide briefing and participation seminar conducted by McPAC at Palm Ridge. The purpose of this project was to begin community insights and the impact to Maricopa County planners as they envision westward growth along the Grand Avenue Highway 60 corridor to the city limits of Wickenburg by 2050. Communities involved in this part of the study are Sun City West, Whitman, and Morristown. Further, in January 25, just around the corner, McPAC will be scheduled to brief the PORA Board of Directors on the entirety of Maricopa County growth and development, with a follow-up briefing for the community of Sun City West, tentatively planned in the February timeframe. Additionally, Chairman Metter wishes to call on the Mayor of Peoria to discuss issues of airport development, as such might impact quality of life issues for residents of Sun City West. This is a work in process, but it will be done. Now I want to take a little time out from my handy-dandy iPad. In this trifold brochure from 1979 through the current date, there are 41 major accomplishments. You wouldn't be happy with me if I attempted to start to read all of those, so I'll scale this down considerably. The number one that we've mentioned, needlessly say, we're all benefiting from being in those of you who live in the non-taxing district are benefiting very greatly. I'll get into that in a moment. So the first one was the seceding from the school district. Number two on our list, in 1997, stopped Deer Valley Road West connection to SR 303, presenting excess traffic issues. Imagine Deer Valley becoming a mini R.H. Johnson. 2013, protected residents from an undesirable development of 53 acres, same corridor as that road, northwest of Sun City West by coordinating with rec centers, Supervisor Hickman, and county officials. Property was pulled from auction and rezoned compatible with SCW. Number five, successfully associated with Sun City West and Paradise Valley to persuade ACC not to consolidate water districts. That was in, where was it, 2022. As we've said, they are anxious to make that consolidation occur. From 2019 to 2024, continue to intervene on behalf of Sun City West in various rate cases with ACC. All cases are reviewed and interviewed on behalf of the Sun City residents by the PORA Government Relations Committee. That's enough of that page. As I mentioned, we have the brochure, and now I'm going to share with you what the first issue that was accomplished represents. And this is entitled, Residents Who Do Not Pay District School Tax. And this information was taken from house sales that have occurred this year. And I must take my hat off to my wife, Judy, who is the Zillow guru. She loves to redecorate houses on Zillow and etc. Anyhow, then when she gets finished, then I can go down to the tax history, and here is what I found. This year, the lowest evaluated property, this is the tax assessment right off the tax bills, $13,000. The highest, $51,000 in evaluation in our community. So I'm going to read in 5,000 increments. $15,000 of an assessment saves $827. $20,000 saves $1,102. $25,000 saves $1,378. $30,000, $1,653. $35,000, $1,929. $40,000, $2,204. My staff and I have worked with, no, we didn't work. We attempted to work with the assessor and other agencies to see if we could find the history going back to the beginning, 1979, that we could put a list together of the rates and the valuations to tell you cumulatively what's occurred based upon the various valuations. We've not been successful in that. So anyhow, that's the scenario. Another booklet I'll hold up. This, we've all seen, or perhaps all of us have seen the hard blue black book of the 25 Silver Anniversary. This book is entitled The Excerpt from Sun City West Silver Celebration, the first 25 years, back on the table for you. In addition, we've talked a lot about government relations, and the brochure backs up where a substantial amount of time has been committed over the decades. I'll go further and getting close to the end. The Transit, Water, and Traffic and Safety Committees each perform important and vital representation for the community. Transit Chair Kay King interacts with county and state officials. Water Chair Dave Hunter conducts a well-attended monthly meeting. Traffic and Safety Chair John Quinn conducts a bi-monthly meeting. In addition to the accomplishments of the 4 committees, there are numerous services provided and performed on a daily basis by our staff members in the membership and marketing departments. Additionally, PORA maintains an active visitor center, which not only provides printed information, but also schedules tours by our volunteers and have a realtor available for those who are in need of such assistance. The recent Dassault Gallery represents approximately 350 talented artisans with 4,000 beautiful works of art and crafts. I have presented the current financial complexities as well as major accomplishments over the 45 years. PORA has now reached a time when the need for the community support of 100% of the residents of Sun City West in order for PORA to continue to maintain and perform in its vast array of services. I will point out that the organization which has utilized several different plans in attempt to increase membership. It should be noted that over 25 years, all organizations throughout the nation are greatly suffering from the continued decline in memberships. In conclusion, the PORA Board requests that $15 per year dues per resident be approved for presentation to the residents in a referendum in the March 25 election. PORA is requesting the rec center assist the rec centers, or the residents, excuse me, in providing the necessary funding Dale Webb failed to provide to us 45 years ago. Thank you for your listening to our presentation.
Thank you. So if I heard your request correctly, I'd like to restate it. You're requesting that each resident in Sun City West pay $15 per person per year as a requirement of like in addition to the requirement that they pay their rec center dues. Is that what I hear?
That is correct, sir.
That is correct. Okay, and you're asking us to put this on the March 2025 Sun City West election as a referendum to let the residents vote on that.
That is also correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board, questions for Mr. Johnson? Yes. Oh, Director Horvath, thank you.
Okay, so a quick calculation that comes to $420,000 a year that you're asking for.
That is correct.
Okay. You have a budget that would a need for a budget that requires that much money.
I do. We will be eliminating certain categories in order to not duplicate, such as our membership now. They'll not be having dues from us anymore. It'll be all inclusive in the package. And yes, I have a extensive pro forma financial statement ready to review with your staff as the conditions may present themselves.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll let some other.
Director Rhodes.
So are you proposing that you're restructuring your organization and restructuring the responsibilities that you have, your staffing, to come in line with the revenue that you have or that you anticipate to have?
We're not restructuring the corporate structure in any fashion. We are a 501c4.
No, that's
our bylaws are complete. We have made staff adjustments and other modifications as have been available to us. We do anticipate that in the event of we're successful, that with the entire community having access to our facilities on Camino de Sol, that the residents would be more active in coming in and seeking services of our staff, such as notary, which is free for a number of documents. And so we've budgeted for a couple of new employees in the future for that purpose. Yes, ma'am. Excuse me.
So much to say, but I'm trying to bulletize. In good conscience, as a member of the board, I'm not sure whether we have the power to simply put a referendum question out. My read, and I defer to anyone on the board for expertise, my read of everything is that any such election question requires, there's a procedure for that. There's a form and signatures that must be collected before we would include that in a portion of our election. So I throw that out first. In terms of that, I think it would, in my view, again, my read of everything here is that we would need, I would need to see all of our members vote on whether this is something of value to them, non-binding, right? But should we receive feedback from the majority of the voting members that this is something of interest, the way that we work within our budget process of here in Sun City West is that we don't just arbitrarily agree to dues or dues increases. We do a very comprehensive review of the budget. So the first step would be to ensure that our membership as a whole agrees and supports the idea of taking on mandatory membership in PORA, number one, of some sort. And then should that referendum be positive, we would then undertake some kind of a comprehensive review of the budget to determine what is the dollar value that would be assessed. And so it would be a bit of a view of, if you meant restructuring in the form of looking at are things as efficient as possible, that would be what I would be looking for. And there's no doubt in my mind that there's value that's been added now and through the years, personally speaking as a homeowner. But I think that would be, in my view, those would be the two steps I'd be looking for. President Leary.
Thank you, Director Novello. I guess I want to take a step back. You've come to us with a request to help save PORA, I think is what you, basically what you're saying.
That's right.
I don't know that we have standing to be able to do that. We are entirely separate organizations. If we, if we do it for one, do we have to do it for all? And I'm thinking of the posse and the foundation as examples. If we're, if you take it to a perhaps illogical end, any business on Camino del Sol, might approach us and say, help us, we're in danger of closing. Can you help send more customers, Sun City West customers our way? So I don't know that we have standing to be able to do this. We certainly do not have the mechanism to enforce payment from our homeowners for anything like this. The closest that we could do would be a special assessment, which would be an annual ongoing special assessment, which, that word, those two words are words that we try to avoid, wherever we can. Those are dirty words. So I'm not sure, where do we go? I'm open to comments, suggestions.
I'm not sure. Actually, Jack, your points are well taken. I'm not sure, there's no nexus between PORA and Sun City West. I never will doubt the value that through the years you've put in there. But the way you've described it is your finances have been dwindling, been waning for a long time. In my humble opinion, I would have thought that if it were me, I would look at the organization and try to match up my expenses with the revenue that's coming in. So, and then we have to look at things like, what is the value? Who are you? What are you trying to do? If you're going to be a legislative connection or a lobbyist advisor, then you need to look at other areas, and this is probably going way too far, but do all of the things that you do fit into that category? I'm very, very, very nervous that we even approach this from a governing board perspective. I see no nexus for us. As a former chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee, I share Christine's comments about, we bleed over a $3 expense for our employees, or excuse me, for our homeowners, let alone to mandate that everybody in here, and you've got 4,000 members, we've got 27,000 people. So if you subtract your 4,000 from 20, that means we got 23,000 people that have chosen not to participate. I can't address that. I can't speak to that. And I'm certainly not going to be someone that is going to vote to say, okay, now carte blanche across the board, you've got to pay that. I'm just not there. I think that we've got some very major issues here that we have to be very careful that there is no nexus. So,
Thank you. Director Piaskowski.
There's a couple things. One, I'm not too sure our community really realizes what PORA does for us. And I would say that you need to get out to our community to tell us that, right? One of the reasons, and I mean, I would go to clubs, okay, and see if you can present things or tell the club members what you've done or what you are doing. So you can then ask for their membership. And we just had at Rip and Sew Community Fund come, tell us what they did, and they wanted a donation. So for a $15 or $25 for a couple, for them to join and have someone in the back room saying, hey, we can take your membership there. And that's not, I mean, I would think that we would be okay with them reaching out to clubs if the president of the club allows it, which they should with no problem. The other thing too is maybe we can work with our membership and our CSCW giving, I think they give the information about PORA, but maybe they don't really explain how important you are with us being unincorporated. I cannot tell you how many people call me and say, why on R.H. Johnson, why don't we have those roads striped already? Well, because that's not us. That's the county. So, people don't, because we have city in our name, they think we're a city. They think that we do all that stuff for them, and we don't. They don't know that. And so I think it's really important that you get out there to educate our residents on what you do for us, whether it's through clubs, whether it's having a meet and greet, like Mr. Erno just did, something so we can, or even going down to the point where you can get volunteers to walk door to door. I mean, maybe we need to think about doing a membership drive for 2025, see how that goes for everybody, and then come back and revisit and see how we're doing in 2026.
Thank you. Director Horvath.
Thank you, President. I really agree with what Director Piaskowski says. That would be a good thing, because I really don't think most of our owner residents even know what you do or what it even stands for. I got to admit, I've been here 14 years, and I didn't know until I took Torch in the spring. I think I was a member when I first moved here, and then I wasn't a member until after Torch, and I'm now a member of PORA. I certainly appreciate what you do, and I think that Director Piaskowski has a very good suggestion. I think if you got on the agenda of the clubs and asked to present, and then saw what you did with the memberships after that, and also, just not to be funny or candid here, but right down to the point you've got a lot next to you, have a car wash. I mean, whatever it takes, right? It's important to have a PORA here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Novello.
Thanks, and with due respect to all the suggestions that are being put forward, I believe, Mr. Johnson, you've said that you've exhausted all of these options, have you not?
Our predecessors and our current board have worked in many of those arenas. Early on in my tenure as president, did take a packet with one of the meetings that the president and the vice president and the general manager and our organization hold quarterly, and asked that it be handed out with every new purchase. And obviously we can't be the police up there to see if that happens. And those folks are busy in their own right with what they're handling. And we really found nothing that was ever achieved from that endeavor.
If any of these suggestions make sense, of course, I think they're good suggestions to consider, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe you would have come here if the situation was not pretty serious. And you may be beyond the membership drive suggestion. Am I correct?
We are. We had the fortune, not at first, but we had the good fortune in the second passing by Congress and the president for the PPP program. We were 501c3s were the only ones that were eligible. Congress went back in the second round of that PPP, and they modified the language, and therefore we were eligible to obtain PPP money because it was tied to the reduction in revenue calculations, and I won't get into the woods here. I'm a retired CPA, so I was deep into this category, so that's how it went. And also the Economic Recovery Tax Act, we were eligible for both of those. $131,000 was collected, and there's one quarter that's still remaining, and there's been lots of publicity about the billions of dollars of fraud of the many applications that should never have been submitted or paid out. So we were fortunate in regard to get those funds. We had a nice bequest in another year, so we've been able to, reducing the salaries, as I mentioned, we've been able to put this off for about 3 or 4 years. That's been how we've worked hard to never have to come here. And I've been on 2 boards, and I know what percentage of collections a fundraising drive has reaped for those 2 organizations. It's very important money, but it certainly is not anywhere in the scope of what we need for the future.
And my comments earlier were, just to go back to them, it's not, I don't see it as in our purview as the governing board to call a special election, but or request a referendum. There is a procedure in our bylaws that allows for a question to be added. So if that's the point that the request you're making of us, I believe that would be the avenue to consider. And for that, I would be, unfortunately, as my fiduciary responsibility, I could not endorse adding a penny to our bylaw, to our dues, without knowing the appetite of our community for such a consideration. So if the majority of our community believes that this is something that they would wish to pursue, we would take it from that point forward. But I'm not comfortable making a recommendation at this point of time, unfortunately.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Director Chatton.
I think it's really difficult because Sun City West doesn't have a governmental entity. This board is a policy board, not a government board. And the only connection we have to our federal, state, local, and county people is PORA. And I don't want to discount what PORA does at all. I don't know what we would do without PORA. But I don't know that it's this board's responsibility to make sure of your continued existence, though I can't even imagine how we would suffer without PORA. I get one letter a year from PORA requesting a donation. And I always send money back. I pay more than what PORA requests, and I'm happy to do that. And I'm not discounting anything, but I think this is a marketing issue. I really do. I think there's, we've had other organizations come in here that have been suffering for different reasons, but if people knew what you do and how much money you're saving them, I can't imagine that they would not contribute and be a member of PORA. And you need membership because you need people that will pay every year. And I don't know how you keep that going. It's just a really difficult situation. And my understanding was that at one point PORA wanted to incorporate Sun City West, which would have been a totally different situation because then we would have a government and you could assess taxes, which would have been an interesting proposition, I think, coming from local government myself. But I just think you need to work on some marketing. If short-term needs, I don't know if your building and lot are mortgaged or not, but I mean, for a short-term, maybe you need to raise some money that way. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate PORA. I wish you the best of luck. I wish we were in a better position to help you, but I don't see how we can.
I might mention, if I may, Mr. Chair. Yes, in 1989, excuse me, I'll back up a little. There was more than one meeting of the minds within the community, Rec Center and PORA, regarding the incorporation issue. The first time it was decided it wasn't in the best interest, and later on, one of our predecessor boards, not one, our predecessor board in about 1989, made the recommendation that we incorporate. Folks, that was catastrophic to PORA. We're told, what do we know? We're told 8,000 members dropped. And how to get back to them, we've not sat on our hands and that sort of thing, but it's a tough issue, and I don't know what else further to say in that regard.
Any other comments? Director Horvath.
Yes, question for the president of PORA. So do you advertise in our newsletters and stuff like that? Are you currently able to put ads in there and request membership that way?
There's been restrictions in the past with regard to our relationship in putting ads in the rec center. Yeah.
Oh, so
when we have a public, when we have a public announcement, but for us to be advertising, it's our understanding that's not part of our purview.
do you have any idea why that is?
No, I don't. I'm not in that mindset, frankly. When I heard it, I put it aside from when my staff gathered that information.
Okay, thank you, because I would think that there again, that's part of marketing, and if you're not trying to market that way, So anyway, it's just a thought.
Sure. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm upset to hear all this. So like I said, I definitely believe in PORA. So, thank you.
Thank you, Director Grom.
Thank you, President Larry. My question would be kind of the next step here. Let's just say if something were to happen and we did a referendum or whatever and agreed to pay annual membership for all 28,000 owners, does that change the basic way you operate now? Because now you operate that membership is voluntary. In that sense, if we're paying for everyone, membership becomes mandatory. Will that change in the way PORA, your basic structure of operation?
It would be a minor modification because we would, first of all, we would tell the folks who are on a roster that if it were successful, and let's assume it would be implemented on July 1st with our first payment in August, that those people who have paid their dues, we would offer a refund for whatever pro rata share of their dues had not been earned by PORA. So there'll be no further billing from our organization. It is all part and parcel of the master package of this new program. So there's, we would not see contributions any further because it's being covered. We wouldn't want to call it double dip. There's other line items that I don't really wish to make public here, and it's very minor money in the second place, about some money that we would no longer feel comfortable in collecting. So the structure, what we provide for services, all in place, and those are the slight modifications that would occur related to revenue.
Okay, Director Novello.
One more. I just wanted to clarify this point that you're not allowed to put anything in the rec center news. I really have a hard time believing that that's accurate. So if I can ask our ops team if that's true, I would love to clarify because that doesn't sound, anybody can buy ad space. I don't know.
Well, if I may address that, I'm not into all the details of that nature from my role. It came from staff and committee or whatever that. So it's been a long time ago. I've been in this position now in my 6th year as president, and so it goes back into the archives in our mind. So that needs clarification, and we'll wait to hear what that situation might be.
Okay, Katie O'Grady is going to address that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Like any of the 501c3s or 501c4s that support Sun City West, PORA is more than welcome to run an ad in our paper, and we've done that, no charge. The unclear area is when it becomes a political issue. And so PORA does a lot of things when they have the art fair or anything like that. We're more than happy to run those. When they are lobbying on a political issue about, for example, whether the posse should be part of MCSO or not, that becomes very political. It's not something I'm comfortable with. If it goes through the board and the board says, sure, you can run this, absolutely. But that's the only line we draw as far as having space in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Director Pieskowski.
Are they allowed to like run on e-news? I mean, can they just do an ad on our e-news saying what they do, who, what, where, and when? Because I see community funds there.
Sure.
I see posse there.
We've encouraged that. Not every week, perhaps. Community news is sort of a space available. And then, you know, if it's changed up every week, we wouldn't want to have a standing ad every week from every organization because people would stop reading the e-news. But if you have a special event or if you're doing a membership drive, absolutely.
So my other question is so when PORA has an issue that is going to affect all of our residents, i.e. water, would they be able to run that on e-news? Because, you know, if they're going down to the commission to do something with the water or not consolidate or whatever, they should be able to run something and have us sign petitions and get involved with that if that's what they're looking for, because it affects all 27,000 residents. It just, you know, and it might be political. You might think it's political, but if my water rates go from $25 to $50, you know, it affects us. So I'm just wondering if they have in their 4 areas, if there's issues that they're going down to there was just something that everyone went down to somewhere, and that I got an alert from you guys, from PORA News, not from e-news, but from PORA News. I mean, so that I think is really important that we as a board decide that PORA should be able to advertise that they can do that, or as you guys, operational, I should say. It's not a board issue.
I think the incorporation example was kind of what happened. You know, it was very divisive in the community. Consolidation, most people are, you know, against it, so that one isn't as divisive. But who's to say and who's to know which issue is going to divide the community, and should the rec centers be promoting the stance that PORA has taken on that? By our articles, and I think our bylaws, were a non-political organization. But again, those would, I would say, escalate to the board, and if the board makes a decision and wants it run in the Rec Center News, so long as it meets deadline, It's your decision on those.
So in general, though, just to be clear, we're going to stay away from anything that's politically related. So if there's a lobbyist, I mean, because again, to Katie's point, you know, when PORA is arguing a point, that might be what the community wants for the most part. But again, that's not our function here at the rec centers to get into political activities, and we need to be very careful about that. Supporting PORA, we absolutely do, and I'm fully in favor of the work they do and supporting them and providing whatever advertising and things like that we can do on a general nature. We're going to be very careful about what we're going to put out there as far as anything that could be controversial and political in nature.
The word that political entered the conversation, and PORA does not use the word politics. We do not advocate for anyone in any political race, in any endeavor. We support the community at ACC. We feel through the years we've represented 100% of the people that have moved in and out of here. And I take great displeasure in hearing that when we backed our local posse, that was considered a political endeavor, when our intent was to represent 28,000 people. We weren't saying the sheriff should be kicked out of office or we would like to have someone else. That's not in our mindset in any form or fashion. So I don't know what it would be that we would never consider politics. When we have a forum, all politicians are invited to participate. We don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Independent. There's nothing in our mindset. We welcome our elected officials, whomever they may be.
Okay. Any more comments from the board? Yeah, Director Horvath.
Okay, so it looks like we've at least identified a multi-level attack here. Like for example, in the e-news or in the newsletter, I wouldn't so much say to advertise as it is to educate first. Get articles out there, let all the owner residents know what you're about, what you do, even the fact that, hey, we are apolitical, that's a good thing. And then get into the clubs, like Director Piaskowski said, and ask to talk to the club members. And the other thing, and honestly, I'm not in any way accusatory here, but like you do have that field there. Is it possible that you could, to get everything tracking and working in place here, that you could put a mortgage on that field, that lot?
We have no mortgages on any of our properties. I would be opposed to putting any mortgages on those properties.
Well, but it's a witness safe.
May I continue? Further, that piece of real estate, if we would have the good fortune of getting it sold, those funds would need to go into our capital preservation fund and not into our daily operations.
Okay, did I see another hand over here? Okay, let me take a break and maybe summarize what I've heard, and the board here can correct me if I've made any miscalculations. So what I've heard is there's not much appetite to take on the request of making a referendum to our homeowners, to our card holders. I've heard some suggestions for alternative ways to raise funds that have been put forth that you may have already considered or done. But to me, that's indicative of the fact that those methods should be pursued, or alternate methods should be pursued first before coming to us asking for what is essentially a special assessment, unfortunately. Is that a fair summary? Okay, yes, Director Hurley.
President Larry, rather than use the word appetite, I think the word is that we don't really have, as you said before, standing to do this. Because this board represents the corporation, the rec centers of Sun City West, okay? Let's say we did have a special assessment. Let's say that we did have something that said everybody's got to contribute, okay? There will be a certain number of people who will not vote for that, and they're going to start turning around and suing us because it's not any original CC&Rs, and it's not, you can't just make people do something that they didn't want to do when they first moved in. The other thing is, even if we did get that money, how do we give it to PORA? How does that happen? I mean, yes, we write them a check, but accounting-wise, how does that happen?
I agree. There are many issues if it were to come to pass, and I appreciate the correction, the upgrade in the terminology. I was trying to be less harsh, but thank you, Tim.
Okay,
you laid it out there.
I was also sitting here thinking, this is going to muddy the water. Also thinking we could buy PORA, but then it wouldn't be a separate organization, and we would have to wonder what would they be doing for us as the rec center. I mean, I understand they do things for the homeowners, but for the rec center, what do they really do for us? So I quickly dismissed that idea.
Well, yeah, okay. Yes,
Sure.
President Johnson.
Our booklet, the black title is "When Are Two Organizations Better Than One?" was created by the author back in the day. And I'm going to go to the very last paragraph and avoid about 5 paragraphs. Discussion of combining the two organizations has continued over the years. In 1999, the two boards took a few hesitant steps toward forming a committee association that would officially represent the community. But the differences between the bylaws, function, and organization of the two bodies proved to be a bottleneck to change.
Okay. Before I ask for a next step, I would questions or comments from the audience. Name and record number, please.
Gary Bosak. Gary Bosak, 102585. On the issue of the 501c3 and 4, if you read the IRS regulations, the whole reason for those being exempt from the federal tax is because they're non-political. If you even come close to being political in nature, you run the risk of losing that tax exempt status. So that's not something that can be broached. Seems to me that we're talking a lot about things that we don't have all the facts for. When a business model isn't working, as a business person, you rethink the model. And we've been established this way for a long time for a lot of different reasons, I'm sure, when it was first started. I have been a PORA member for 24 years, so I appreciate all that you do. And it's pained me to see how you've lost as many members as you have. But we got a lot of smart people in the community, and it seems to me that we ought to be able to come up with a way, because you've all said you want to keep PORA, and they serve a valuable service. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So the question is, how do we keep them as an organization doing what they're doing, because we can't combine them with us? So how does the business model need to change, and what does maybe our legal side of things have to be evaluated and changed to be able to allow them to function? Because if they go away, you understand clearly, I know, that that's a very bad thing for a lot of people in the community. So if it finally comes to that, maybe a front page story and the Independent PORA ready to shut their doors unless you people join. Jennifer?
Pretty embarrassing.
I know, it's political. See, I think that's the thing that people misunderstand when they think about PORA. They immediately attach it as being political. And that's so far from the truth. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of education that needs to happen. But again, I think we got to get a group of folks, get some more facts, and recreate a different business model to keep you vibrant.
Thank you, Gary. I would like to clarify when you say we does not include the rec centers at Sun City West. We are an entirely separate organization. Two companies cannot get together, two organizations cannot get together to do that.
I was putting the onus on
Okay.
Mr. Johnson.
I just wanted to be clear as to who we is.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, fellow citizens. Just a few random thoughts for you. I'm the guy that goes
name
down-
and rec card number, please.
Okay, 132059.
And your name.
Bud Metter. I'm the government rep. I'm the guy that goes down and argues before the ACC. I'm the guy that interfaces with other communities. My purpose, and by the way, this is not choreographed. He had no idea I was coming up here. My purpose is to tell you what other people think of us, Sun City West. I can tell you, because they tell me, the people down on the hill listen to what Sun City West has to say. They are convinced that we are an important community and that what we say and what we think has meaning to them. They tell me that. Just a few other points that you might want to take into consideration. For example, on the recent wastewater issue with EPCOR, we fought that for 15 months. We were integrated with Sun City West, with Sun City, Tonto Verde, Rio Verde Hills. And they came to us, they considered us, quote, "You're the 800-pound gorilla in the room," end quote. They wanted us to take the lead, and we did. There was one community that EPCOR was trying to take from $46 a month for wastewater treatment to $211 a month. We got a $7.42 a month increase. Not bad for a guy who's not a lawyer. So it's important that we remain flexible, that we remain intellectually nimble. This is an issue that's important to all of us. And Jolene mentioned a moment ago, what we say here and do here impacts every single person in the community. And when I go down to talk to the ACC, usually there's a ton of lawyers in there. That's the message I put out. We have a community of retirees on fixed incomes. You need to take us into account for all sorts of moral reasons, but not the least of which is we vote. And they know that. So anyway, thank you very much. My time's up.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Chris Waller, 140558. At this meeting, I didn't learn anything about PORA because I knew the value of PORA, except for one thing. I had no clue of the financial distress that PORA was going through. So, and I'm a member. As a member who values PORA, my takeaway from this is I will knock on my neighbors' doors and make sure that they're members and maybe add a little extra to my payment check. I'm involved in a club, and we will invite you to come talk to the club. But I think the most important takeaway from this is that the people that didn't understand the value of PORA, okay, let's bring them up to that level. But those that did understand the value, let's understand that this is critical. And whether it's press or spreading the word, that's probably the biggest takeaway I had. I thought PORA was running fine until today. So thanks for sharing that, and I'll do my best to share it also.
Nick Turner, 131829. I think a lot of the issues that PORA have might be coming from the perception of value that comes through from the residents. They don't link the $15 a year to lower utility bills. They don't link the $15 a year to not having 20,000 vehicles a day driving down Deer Valley. They link the $15 a year to free notary services and a list of vendors, and they go to Google reviews. And if you're like me, my attorney does my notary services for free. So that's one of the issues that I think we have in the community, is that perception of value. And there's another big question, of course, is what do we do if PORA goes away? Nothing will change tomorrow or maybe the year after, but over the years, the costs of living here will rise. As that happens, there will then be pressure coming back to this governing board of what are we doing about it? None of the members of the governing board, none of us in this room might be on the governing board when those questions come up, and you get that pressure from the residents. But there will become pressure from residents to lobby the utilities, lobby the legislature, lobby the county to do things to the benefit of Sun City West, which will cease if PORA do that. And I do note there are articles of incorporation allow the recreation centres, the association, to do things which promote the interests of the membership. So although we don't want to do it, there might be a way within the Articles of Association for the recreation centres to take up that task. But it would be a sad thing if PORA goes away, because there will be a lot of work that needs to be picked up and taken up by somebody or some group or some organisation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Do we have any questions online?
No questions.
Okay. Since discussion has ended. Yes, Director Hurley.
Before you wrap up the discussion, would you consider, please, going to Hazelwood and just running by some of these objections that we have with them to make sure that we do, in fact, have these objections?
I would be glad to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great idea. So then with that, oh yeah, yes.
I just want to build on another thing that Director Hurley had stated earlier, that even if we were ever to move forward on any of these notions, the question of what happens next there's a lot. So this would not be a quick solution anyway. I believe Mr. Johnson and all the members of PORA are aware that this would, any kind of a referendum or a decision or what have you, it would take a lot to actually implement both legally and financially how we would make that exchange happen. So please bear that in mind in your planning as well, and for the residents as well. I think you've succeeded in getting some of the imperatives out there, which is great, but it's a very complicated situation. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. I'll let Mr. Metter speak again.
Starting to feel like a Baptist preacher up here with a room full of sinners. That's humor. You may chuckle. Okay, just one point I would like to make, and it comes back to how we get the word out to the people. You take the requirement that we have to get the stuff into the system and get it out, juxtapose that, that's a big word for me, compare that to the rapidity of events that sometimes come out of the ACC. Case in point, just last week, the state lost, not just us, the state lost 3-2 was the vote on future formula rate hikes. What that means is the rate hikes can go up very, very slowly to a point, and you won't know about it, except that you're paying a little bit out here and a little bit out there, and we won't know about it. So we knew that this was going to be a very time-compressed issue. That when the ACC said, okay, we're going to have a vote on this, you folks come on down and tell us what you think. Well, there was no time to put the opposition together, other than me arguing with RUCO, Residential Utility Consumers Office, to the ACC. They're our conduit to the ACC. There was no time to go out and organize the communities. So when sometimes, what I'm trying to do is educate you in terms of some of the complexities of getting the word out. Sometimes these things happen so quickly, I need to be able to turn to somebody other than my own guy down at PORA, who can only reach 4,000 people. I need to be able to reach out and touch all the community and say, this is what's happening, and you need to be aware of it because it impacts your quality of life, because it gets right into your pocketbook. And those are the real world technical difficulties that I have, that we all have, not just me, but we all have who are in this sort of operation, to getting the words out so our community can be informed and so we can take a more effective stance in the interest of our citizens before the ACC and any other governmental organization. So I just wanted to offer that for your education.
Bud?
Yes, sir.
Inject the Attorney General situation.
Oh, yes, on this last thing, the formula rate hike, the Attorney General approached the ACC with a letter and said, we need more time for the communities to comprehend what this rate hike issue is all going to be all about. Well, the ACC just ignored it. Just ignored it. When I testified down there a week ago Tuesday, there were 39 people to speak. I guess I was number 4 or 5 to speak. The first guy to speak was the mayor of Havasu City, Lake Havasu City. If you had taken his comments and put them on my comments, it would have been the very same thing. And a number of other speakers representing various communities throughout the state said pretty much the same thing. We just need time to make sure we're smart on these things. The Attorney General said the very same thing in a letter to the ACC, which they ignored. So what does that mean? What that means is that particular vote went down in favor of commercial interest, not in favor of us as citizens. We need to understand that. So when I come to Katie or Jim Riley or whoever it is over at the rec center and say, I need to get this word out, it's because I have been given that much time on the other end. And as I'm sure you know, I have no control over what the legislature does or how the ACC schedules themselves, et cetera, et cetera. But I do know that I've got just that much time, and I've got to respond. Respond in terms of how do I educate our people so that they themselves can be involved in the process. Does that make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so what I will suggest to this board is that, given Mr. Hurley's good idea to engage our corporate counsel to get his opinion on it, so I will suggest that we postpone any decision on the request from PORA until our next workshop meeting, which will be in January. So I apologize that we can't give you an answer today, but okay. Is that agreeable to everybody on the board? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll go to comments. Any board director comments? I'll start with Mr. Hurley.
This is one of those issues where empathy gets outweighed by duty. And we have to realize what we're here for and who we really represent and what our scope of business really is. And I think today was an exercise in that. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Rhodes?
Yeah, I agree with Director Hurley, I have great empathy and great concern for PORA. I'm just not sure what we can do about it. I think there are pieces of it that are absolutely necessary, and we're going to have to deal with that eventually, and I don't know how we'll do that. So, and at that, I just want to wish everybody to have a very wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, or whatever your celebration is, and that you get to see your grandkids. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Director Williams?
Thank you. Yes, this was obviously not going to be an issue that could be resolved in 1 hour or one meeting or 1 month, or maybe not even 1 year. It gives us a lot of food for thought, a lot of things that we may not have been aware of. So to that, I say, stay tuned. You'll be hearing more about it probably for quite some time. To a totally different topic, the best Christmas present I got is seeing, it's not unusual, Tom Jones in our audience. That's it. Thank you.
Director Piaskowski?
Yeah, we have a lot to think about with PORA. I think education is going to really help our residents join their organization. And yes, it's great that Tom's back. And everyone, have a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and whatever you celebrate, and enjoy our weather because the rest of the states is cold.
Director Chapman?
I think it's all been said, but happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Novello?
Likewise, I think I amplify my fellow directors' statements about our duty here is to the corporation and to the association at whole. But it will be a long series of discussions, but we're here for it. So, and while I'm doing, I won't wish everybody a happy holidays, although I wish that for you, because you'll all be at our upcoming Budget and Finance meeting on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Thank you.
And the finance department goes wild. Okay, Director Grom.
Yes, thank you to everyone who attended today. It was a good learning experience, and happy holidays.
Director Horvath.
Nice part about being last is nothing left to say except for happy holidays. Glad to see everybody here. Come again.
Okay, then I will end. I'll echo what has been said. We have as a board, we have a responsibility to our corporation, and which is our members. But we will investigate and go through this process with PORA, and we'll see where we come out. Any comments from the audience? Oh, here comes Mr. Jones. No, I already offered. He wants to do it. Moving pretty good there, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you.
My scribe here and my wife is writing my name and number. Tom Jones, 110390. And if you didn't know, I suffered a stroke on October 19th, and I just got out of rehab on Friday. So I'm coming along, and I really appreciate those who kept me in their prayers and thought about me, and it's been wonderful to hear from the different people. So I know that this is the season of Christmas, and Jesus is the reason for the season, and we're blessed, and my wife and I both are blessed to be a blessing to others. And I don't have any raffle tickets with me, but I do want to remind you that our car show will be February 8th on a Saturday. And the raffle car will be up to be raffled then. tickets are available at ARC and at any of the different meetings that we have. So thanks again. And those are good stocking stuffers and Christmas gifts too, because they'll be in February. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to see you back, Tom. Okay, before I, sorry.
The short one.
The brain bleed that Tom experienced was horrific. And this is a testimony to what the power of prayer can do. Trust me, he would not be here if it weren't for all those people that have truly prayed. They've been prayer warriors, and we thank you for that. The subsequent seizure, strokes, everything else that went along with it, nobody would have survived this, but Mr. Unusual did. So thank you, and have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas. He's my Christmas gift.
Okay, and I'll add my holiday greetings to everybody. Everyone have a great holiday, a safe one, especially if you're traveling. Our next workshop is January 10th, 2025 in this room. And our next regular meeting is December 19th, which is next Thursday, 9 a.m. also in this room. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.